Imagine you are in class. Your professor has just walked in to tell you that he has graded your exam. You got a B for your test, a B- to make matters worse. What will your parents think? How will this affect your future? This is not what you wanted, nor expected, and above all, it's far from good enough. Soon the whole world will know that you have failed. Sound familiar? Well then you, my friend, may suffer from perfectionism. Today we will talk about both the positive and the negative sides of this topic and give you some helpful advice. Oh, and stick around for a fun surprise at the end. But let's first quickly go over what perfectionism is. Perfectionism is characterized by striving for flawlessness, setting excessively high standards for yourself, and being overly critical. You may feel like your perfectionism helps you stay motivated and be successful. But perfectionism that is driven by a fear of failure may lead to a lot of stress, especially when we do not measure up to our own high standards. Some researchers say that perfectionism is always unhealthy. Perfect doesn't exist, which would mean that perfectionists can never be satisfied with their work as their goals are simply unattainable. But does that mean that everything about perfectionism is bad? Well, it's important here to make a distinction between two dimensions of perfectionism: striving for perfection and a fear of failure. While striving for perfectionism is linked with a hope of success, feeling motivated for school and higher achievement, fear of failure, on the other hand, is linked with depressive symptoms such as feeling ashamed, sad, guilty, and even somatic complaints such as headaches and feeling dizzy. Sometimes this can even lead to feeling like we're barely hanging on. Burnout is much more common under perfectionists, especially those who have a fear of failure, as opposed to those striving for perfection. But why is perfection linked to all these negative outcomes, and what can we do about this? We will now talk about some factors that can increase the risk of burnout and other negative outcomes of perfectionism, and what you can do to prevent this. First of all, researchers have found that parental pressure is linked to negative outcomes of perfectionism. Parental pressure can take many forms. For instance, maybe your parents want you to become a doctor or expect you to have very high grades, while you actually want to become a musician. Finding a balance between your parents' expectations of you and your own desires can feel like a constant battle and can cause you a lot of stress and anxiety. If you think the bar they are setting is way too high, try talking to them about how it makes you feel. And if you're really struggling, talk to another trusted adult or friend and get their take on it. Secondly, your sleep quality may also suffer under your perfectionism, as there is an undeniable link between sleep difficulties and school stress. On top of that, more than 50% of adolescents do not get the recommended number of 8 hours sleep each night. And when you are not well rested, it becomes more difficult to focus. Your performance decreases, even your immune system becomes less efficient. A lack of sleep is even linked to increases of weight and diabetes. Our advice is try to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. And we know it's hard, but it helps if you turn your screens off early. Maybe try a relaxation strategy that incorporates mindfulness, deep breathing or meditation. If you're really stressed, write out all your worries on paper to get your thoughts out of your head. And if all else fails, count sheep. This was our video about perfectionism. Thank you so much for listening. However, we are not entirely done yet. To make sure you remember the most important bits, we wanted to summarize our presentation, but not in the traditional way. We wanted to do something special, so we wrote a short song about perfectionism. You see their successes, point out your flaws, trying not to mind it 'cause you gave it your all. You climb every mountain and reach for the top, always aiming farther, but it's never enough. We are our own worst critics, always expecting okay, it's allowed. Somewhere deep inside you know the bar is set too high. We are our own worst critics, always expecting the unrealistic. Don't stress yourself out, it's okay to be proud. Sometimes you'll be wrong, you can't please everyone. My dear, why can't you see your